happens when the next Democratic president, just decides, we're going to call it the Obama-Lincoln Memorial. We're just going to slap, Bill Clinton's name on, something, anything, arbitrarily. Are you guys going to be cool with that?
So you're saying a Democrat would put Obama's name on a statue that isn't of him? That would make them look like the stupidest person that ever lived.
Scott Jennings completely dismantles the entire CNN panel during another TDS Meltdown, this time over Trump's name being added to the Kennedy Center. Let's get into it.
What happens when the next Democratic president, just decides, we're going to call it the Obama-Lincoln Memorial. We're just going to slap, Bill Clinton's name on, something, anything, arbitrarily. Are you guys going to be cool with that?
So you're saying a Democrat would put Obama's name on a statue that isn't of him? That would make them look like the stupidest person that ever lived.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because the Kennedy Center is literally a congressionally
it's a building
named, a congressionally named memorial.
It's not a statue.
It's not a statue, but it is a memorial to President John F. Kennedy. In the same way that the Lincoln Memorial is a memorial to President Lincoln.
But it's a statue.
So are you ready?
It has a likeness.
Are you ready for a Democratic president to slap their name arbitrarily on any memorial?
I'm ready for Democrats to misname every statue in America. I think, to prove your point, I think that would be great for their party.
It would change all the names. It would be a step in the right direction.
I don't want to skip over
other than destroying the statue.
This is the party that's famous for tearing down Thomas Jefferson, for pulling down Christopher Columbus, for pulling down this statue and that statue. If they want to put a statue up for Barack Obama, that's great.
Let's not skip over this, though.
It's funny how the same people who sat quietly while Jefferson and Columbus's statues were being torn down are now crying because Trump simply added his name to the Kennedy Center. The hypocrisy is just entertaining at this point. But watch, because here we have another talking head repeating the same exact argument, if that's what you want to call it, as Abby did in the previous clip. But this time they're crying because Trump was drilling holes into pristine walls, as if that's irreparable damage.
In the head. Yeah. Donald Trump is a sitting president. If Barack Obama put his name on the Lincoln Memorial or anything else, there would be outrage from the right. And so
why would you put your name on a statue that's not of you? That doesn't make any sense.
It's a memorial.
It's a silly example.
It's a memorial.
You know what this is? It's disrespectful. This is a slain president. This building was named in 1964, a little less than a year after the president was assassinated. It is a living memorial in Washington, D.C. We don't need to see Donald Trump's name on there. And they've already started drilling it on.
You have a list of things you can put it on.
He could have picked anything. He picks a memorial to a slain, assassinated president. I think it's gross. It's absolutely gross. Unnecessary, gross. And it's all we
Can you
don't
name
need
one
it.
thing you'd
We
be
don't
okay?
need it.
Like, tell me what is be okay if we put
All the
Donald
things you
Trump's
just
name on.
I have a
mentioned,
whole
an
big list of
airport,
things, but
the
you know
streets,
what?
the things.
Let's not distract from the issue. It's pretty disgusting. Okay? It's not necessary. They're drilling holes into the walls, the pristine white walls of the Kennedy Center that had existed.
How do you
And if
guys
I
go
were
through the
Kennedy
outrage every day?
family-
It would exhaust me to be as outraged.
Well, I only wish you could be as exhausted as I am.
I don't want to over.
I love that Scott calmly exposes just how unserious this whole meltdown really is. Every single one of those women are so worked up. They should be ashamed of themselves for having temper tantrums like that on national TV. Which I know that's really nothing new at this point, because it seems to be an everyday occurrence. Anything to do with Trump just triggers them straight into theatrics. But the reality is, their arguments have no logic or consistency. It's all just manufactured emotional outrage. And I think the media is making this whole ordeal bigger than it should be. And honestly, I wish they had the same outrage over the multi-billion-dollar fraud scandal in Minnesota, or even the Epstein files. And I don't recall them having so much outrage back in 2020 when all those schools, hospitals, and streets were renamed.
To be honest, I didn't spend too much time looking at this because I didn't think it was that big of a deal given the grand scheme of things that happened this week. But I personally don't care that much, but I do find it funny, Paul, that you care and that the Kennedys care, because no one in your party cared in 2020 when you guys were changing names of hospitals, parks, schools, streets, everything in the name of George Floyd. In fact, Wikipedia has an entire page called List of Name Changes Due to the George Floyd Protest. It is the longest Wikipedia page I've ever seen. So people who are up in arms about name changes now were mostly silent. The second point I'd make, I think it's really disingenuous for the Kennedys and for anyone to sit here and pretend like they care so much about the Kennedy Center, because I don't know how many of you guys have been to the Kennedy Center prior to Donald Trump taking office. I was there in 2023. I was in a VIP box. That should be pretty nice. The seats were stained. I literally sat down. I was like, is this wet? Is this fresh? The floors were dirty. This is a place that was decrepit. And all of this on top of people getting exorbitant salaries. So people who were running the Kennedy Center, or who claimed to love and care about the Kennedy Center, said nothing when it was falling into disrepair. And President Trump comes in. They are renovating. They cut salaries that were needlessly high. They are bringing people to come and see the arts for once. It was not that lively of an institution under the Biden administration. So don't pretend like you care about the Kennedy Center now when you were quiet when it was falling into disrepair.
I talk about hypocrisy. Let's just be honest here. This outrage has absolutely nothing to do with a name change, but everything to do with Trump's name. If his name weren't involved, none of these people would care one bit. Sadly, that's just the reality of the world we live in. We have to remember, not one of them said a word when hospitals, schools, parks, and streets were renamed overnight. And they didn't seem to have a problem when military-based names were changed. I also don't recall them objecting when long-standing brands like Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben, and Land O'Lakes were erased, nor did they protest when they renamed sports teams. They even had the audacity to defend men and women's sports. They said Joe was sharp as a tack, and they also tried to argue that men could get pregnant. This is the same party that pretty much renamed basic biology to hate speech. And where was the outrage when our historical statues were being torn down, or when history was selectively rewritten? CNN didn't seem to have a problem with any of that, but they want to call Trump's name on that building wrong, disrespectful, gross, and disgusting. That, my friend, is what I like to call selective or manufactured outrage. It seems to me like the only thing the Democrats build are narratives. And as far as the Kennedy Center is concerned, well, the truth is, that building was in horrible condition. It was falling apart. The seats were stained and worn out, the floors were dirty, and I'm pretty sure some of that paint was peeling off of those pristine walls. The place needed a lot of work, and you would think that the Kennedy family would have stepped up to fix it by now. But they didn't, and it was neglected for years. The building was in no way being maintained the way these talking heads are trying to sell it. And if the Kennedy family or anyone else really cared so much about its condition, they literally had decades to step in and do something about it. But, once again, they didn't. You know who did care about it, though? Donald Trump. It took Donald Trump to invest in it and restore it, to make any of them even bat an eye to it. He did what they all refused to do and put a stop to the decay. He gave the Kennedy Center a full overhaul. But they want to act like he vandalized the place by simply renovating it. And there's also one little detail they're leaving out because, of course, it doesn't fit their narrative. Trump's name being added to the building was a decision that was approved by the board. So CNN can frame this as Trump disrespecting JFK or he's defacing such a sacred place all they want. But that's just not true. They ignore what actually happened, that Trump rebuilt something that others ignored for decades. And instead of them appreciating his efforts, we get fake moral outrage and complaints about drill holes and quote-unquote pristine walls from the same people who didn't bat an eye during the destruction of our historical statues. But now, all of a sudden, they're pretending to be the guardians of sanctity and tradition. Like I said, this isn't about JFK, it's not about memorials, or even about respect. It's about the fact that Trump is involved in doing good once again, and they just can't stand it.